All right, I'll call the Town of Essex Select Board meeting for Tuesday, January 17th to order. We have speakers in the cabinet talking to us. Okay, first thing on the agenda, are any agenda additions or changes from staff?
A couple of requested changes from staff. One of them goes with item 6D, which is the evaluation for the manager. Just a couple of forms that the town has used in the past to evaluate managers. So those are in front of you right now. Just another point of contact and reference. Secondly, I would like to give you an update on a legal matter. So request that you add an executive session to discuss pending or probable civil litigation.
Okay. Okay, any, is that it?
That's it from staff.
Okay, any changes from board members? Okay, I make the motion that we accept the evaluation forms that were provided to us, the manager evaluation forms that were provided to us this evening for reference, and also add in an additional executive session for a
Pending or probable civil litigation.
pending or probable civil litigation.
Okay.
Thank you, Ethan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. We have a new agenda, or updated agenda. Next thing on the agenda is public to be heard. Public to be heard is a time when those attending the meeting can speak to the board on town business that's not on the agenda. If you'd like to speak during public to be heard, you can either raise your hand here in the room or use the raise your hand feature in the Zoom application. To get to that button, you can, if you float your cursor at the bottom of your screen, a reactions button will open up. If you click on that, the raise hand feature will present itself, and you can click on that to if you'd like to speak. And so I do see one hand up, Lorraine Zaloom.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. One, is there a way to get a Civic Ready update on, quarterly to see how many people are signing up and how well it's working? I'm not sure if people in our town know how valuable it is, how great a job Tammy's doing. On the newsletter, it's just fantastic. I hope that it can help deal with some of the issues around the Front Porch Forum in terms of people being blocked. And then the other thing, is there a way to make sure that all of the meeting recordings are uploaded to like a YouTube channel? I went to that PC meeting, I saw it was recorded, the Planning Commission meeting last week, and there was a couple things in there that I was talking to some people about in our community, and it's hard for me to just rely on my memory. And I want a way to be able to go back and have people look at it, refer to it, and actually have a robust discussion. And it looks to me like it was recorded, so I'm not sure what the barriers are to actually uploading that. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Lorraine. Anything there we can respond to?
As far as the Civic Ready updates, Lorraine, I'll talk to Tammy about how to best access those and share those. I think we're up over 100, if not a few hundred subscribers to the newsletter, which is great. As far as uploading to YouTube, I know it's been a bit more challenging than it seems like it should be on its face. So we are recording meetings and training some new staff and figuring out some of the kinks and logistics of getting all videos uploaded to the YouTube channel. In the meantime, we do take minutes. Those are posted within 5 business days, so that's always a good resource as well.
All right, thanks, Greg. Margaret Smith, I see your hand up.
Hi, thank you. I thought I signed up for that newsletter, but I must have screwed something up, so I will try again. I do have a comment on the revised charter, and it's in reference to section 117.206. Should I mention it now, or will I be able to talk about it later?
So, Margaret, we're having a public hearing on that topic very soon, so you'll have an opportunity then to comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Hey, anyone else? Anyone in the room wishing to speak during public to be heard? See any hands? Margaret, I see your hand is still up. Is that a additional comment? No, okay. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the first of our any public hearings. I'll call to order or open the first of two public hearings on the proposed amendments to the Town of Essex Charter. I say first of two because there'll be a second one on January 30th. The intent here is to get input from the public. We've talked about this several times in meetings. Is there anything we need to do to kick off here?
The Charter Review Committee is a committee that the Select Board appointed back in the late summer, early fall. They met throughout the fall to propose some changes. Select Board got that feedback on December 5th and decided to focus on 5 potential amendments. Staff has done some additional work. Select Board's done some additional work as far as proposing what is in front of the public today. It's required by statute to have 2 public hearings on charter changes, and ultimately the Select Board will decide which of the amendments and in what form to present to voters at town meeting in March.
Okay, thanks, Greg. So is there anyone who would like to speak? I know, Margaret, you had already indicated that you wanted to comment.
Yes, thank you. Do I need to put my hand back up?
You do not.
Okay. And this is something I brought up in the Charter Change Committee, but I think it's on page 9 of the packet, is in reference to 117-206, and it's the record of proceedings. And it doesn't specify in any way how the minutes shall be kept. And I'm concerned that the minutes should be at least kept in paper form, which I think they've always been done, but it doesn't specify that. You know, we lost power for large parts of the town. And when the power goes down, if it's only kept electronically, the records are of no use. So I don't know if there should be something in the charter that talks about how those records shall be kept. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Margaret. I think to comment on some of that or respond to some of that, if that's appropriate. Okay, yeah. Statute tells us how we need to retain records, and also our intent with this charter change is not to change any, for the most part, not change any language. There is one section that we're proposing to delete, and so this language that's in 117-206 is identical to the language that's in our current charter, so we're not changing anything there. It's our intent, or actually I should say I have proposed, the Select Board hasn't actually had a discussion about this. I've proposed that we come back after town meeting and work through each of the chapters of the charter to look for areas where language may need to be changed. There were a lot of suggested changes that came from the charter committee, and given the timeline, we didn't feel that we could give due justice to reviewing all of those proposed changes. So I think I'd like you to hold that thought, and we'll come back to it, although we can have more discussion about it. I mean, our plan is to collect input at this meeting and at the next public hearing, and then there'll be discussion about whether to include any additional changes. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, anyone else wanting to comment on the charter? Any of the aspects of it? I don't see any hands online. There's no hands in the room. Comments from board members?
I would just note that I think that the town is doing a good thing by putting the particular wording that you did for the just cause eviction as a proposal. Thanks. Okay.
Okay, seeing no other,
Make a motion that we close the public hearing for charter amendments.
okay, thank you, Ethan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Don. Any further discussion? Those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, so we're out of,
Can I just ask, Mr. Chairman, that you remind people to sign in?
yes, if you've come into the room, please sign in on the sign-in sheet over there so we have an accurate record of who attended the meeting tonight. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our second public hearing. This again is the first of two public hearings on the fiscal year 2024 municipal budget. All that bring to order. The introductory comments you want to make?
As you all know, you've spent a lot of time in the budget the past few months. It's a big year, big transition year. Trying to get a budget that's going to set the town up for the future. Post separation from after the separation of the village from the town. A few things working against us this year. That separation resulted in the loss of a 41% of the town's tax base. Offsetting that a little bit by sharing police services, sharing assessing, and sharing the senior services for half of the year. Also dealing with a lot of inflation, as you've probably realized in your everyday lives, which has affected everything from contracts to supplies to gasoline, heating, everything, including health insurance, which is another big one. Health insurance premiums are up about 20%. So when staff first started working on this, department heads took the first shot at their individual budgets back in September. From there, the administration team took it and went back and forth with department heads quite a bit. We had to make some tough decisions, holding off on things that were requested that we could use, but knowing it's not the right time financially to go after, a couple of new staff people, for instance. We took a look at historical spending patterns, stuff like overtime in the public works department had often been budgeted on the conservative high end, and never knowing what's going to happen with winters, when we're going to have big emergencies come up. If that overtime was not spent, it usually went towards paving or other capital projects. We took a look at historical spending. We brought the overtime budget down to historical average. It's a fine line. So far, it's been a fairly moderate winter. There's a winter operations update in your packet today, so you can see where we compare to the past few years, but we don't know what else the winter's going to bring. We don't know what's going to bring next year, which is really what we're talking about. And if we have a bad winter, if there's a lot of overtime, that line's going to go over. Police are similar. We budgeted based on police always having a certain number of vacancies, which usually results in a fair number of fund balance or surplus in the budget each year. We took that down to their historical number of vacancies. If we run into the good problem of having officers stick around and new officers come, we might be having a conversation about going over on that budget. So we took out a lot of the buffers that we had in there before, where it's really a lean budget. We did look for efficiencies, reshuffling some staff positions and within departments to sort of better align, better provide services. We presented that to the select board back in November, and you've taken your pencils to it, I suppose, and major adjustments to where we are today. We're looking at a total budget that has gone down from fiscal year 23. The tax levy has also gone down quite a bit, back to the loss of the village of Essex Junction tax base. Grand list is owned in the town now. We're projecting about a 1% increase in the grand list. We're proposing to use $600,000, or I should say, at this point, I should say the select board is proposing to use $600,000 of fund balance to offset the tax rate. Where we stand right now, it's a tax rate increase of 22%. The average home in Essex, that's about $340 increase over the past year. Staff knows, I think the select board knows, it's a big ask of the community, but it's also, I think, what we need to keep going forward and to maintain the services that the community has come to expect. So with that, happy to answer questions or turn it over to all of you.
All right, thanks, Greg. The one thing that I want to add is that we're only required to have one public hearing, but we're proposing to have, we are going to have two. Part of that is because now that we don't have the option of modifying the budget amount from the floor, because we've gone to Australian ballot for the budget, like to make sure folks understand that the time to ask for changes in the budget is now. Once we warn it for the town meeting ballot, then it's just yes or no, no changes. So if you want to suggest any changes, now's the time to do it. So anybody have any comments? Yes, sir. Come on up to the microphone, introduce yourself. Can you come up to the microphone, please?
Do we need my microphone?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's placed correctly. Just you can just tweak.
Your health insurance, you said you were looking at a
Sir, can you
20%.
identify yourself?
My name's Dennis White.
Thank you.
You said you were looking at a 20% increase. Are we a member of the Vermont League of Cities and Towns?
Yes, we are.
Do we get our insurance through them?
Health insurance, no. We get our property casualty insurance and workers' comp through VLCT.
Okay, and so why would it be jumping by 20%? Is it because we don't have a required minimum number of employees now that we've split?
That's a small factor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Greg.
Yeah, so that's a small factor that goes into it. We belong to the Vermont Health Exchange. We get our health insurance through MVP. We've been with MVP for I think 3 or 4 years now. Blue Cross Blue Shield is the other provider through the exchange. We did look at them. It was probably going to be in the 18 or 19% increase for health insurance premiums through Blue Cross Blue Shield. The management team, the HR director talked a bit. The amount of savings to do that, we didn't think was worth it for upheaval to staff to try to change plans, get used to a new system, everything else. When we did make the switch to MVP about 3 or 4 years ago, we came from Blue Cross. At the time we were going to save well over $100,000. We thought it was worth it at that point. At this point, we don't. To answer your question about the number of employees, we were always 2 separate organizations, so it was a little strange between the town and the village. Combined, we did have enough employees where we could go outside of the exchange. And when you do that, you have a few more options. Keep it simple, but we don't have that option. We didn't have that option to explore this year.
Very good. 20% just seems like a big increase.
And it is. It's set by the Green Mountain Care Board, I believe, is the entity that allows health insurance rates each year, and Blue Cross, MVP, all about the same.
Very good.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the question. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name's Brett Gaskill. I just want to make sure I understand what you're just saying, is that our taxes are going to go up another $700 on average per year? Is that what we're saying?
No, 340.
I thought you said 340 per half year.
Nope. For the average home, we'll see about a $340 tax increase in the average home.
So we use $280,000 as a representative home value based on 2007 assessments. So I understand that houses are selling for a lot more now, but it's based on what your home was assessed back in 2007. And we use 280,000 as a representative. And it's if you take our grand list and you find the median or the average, it's pretty close to 280,000 for the town of Essex.
And if I may add on to that too, if you're curious about your home value, you can reach out to the assessor's office and they can tell you. It's online as well. Don't go to Zillow. If you go to Zillow, that's not the assessed value of your home.
I'm not worried about the value of my home. I'm worried about the value of the money that you're digging out of everybody's pockets. You guys seem to pass these things with very flippantly suggested it's no big deal. $340 after everything that people are paying in gas and everything else. I just don't see. Where's the concern for the average citizen? Where are they supposed to come up with this money? Where? My property taxes, I've owned my house 25 years now. They've gone up 300% in that time period. 300%. And now here's another 5%. No big deal, you know. I just want to say on behalf of all the people that aren't here, you're doing a tremendous injustice to the people of this community. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else? Any board member comments?
Well, I'll follow that up by saying I've said before, and I would say it again, I don't think the budget increase is enough. If you look at the amount that your health insurance costs have gone up, 20%. You look at the level of inflation right now, it's 8%. And you look at some of the other things, I think that you're cutting it really close. I mean, $340 isn't something, but it's $1 a day. And the best value that you get is from your town services. And Essex has a tremendous staff, and you do a lot of things. So I would also point out that when we separated, everybody said the budget was going to go up 20%. Well, you're at 22% in a year with record inflation, record costs for all of materials and supplies, record health insurance costs, and record staffing costs. So I'm just afraid that you've cut it too close to the bone. You're taking $600,000 of our savings to keep that rate low. And we don't have a lot of people that are coming in and saying that the increase is too much. So I just think you really should consider putting a little bit more into the budget than the 22%. I think you're going to find that it's too big a dip for where we are. It's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Hey, I don't see any hands up.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing for the future year 24 municipal budget.
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Don. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0. The public hearing is closed. Move on to the next public hearing. This is again I will call to order the first of 2 public hearings on fiscal year 2024 capital budget and 5-year plan. Again, we will be having a second public hearing on January 30th on this topic. Forewarning the budget or the town meeting ballot items. Anybody? Any comments from the public? Capital plan, or you want to have any introductory words?
I'm just admitting some people. I don't know how long they've been waiting. I apologize. They may want to check and see if they had any budget comments. I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
That was Patty Davis and Maurice Dunbar who just went.
Okay, so for those who just joined, we have. I guess I'll ask the select board. You're okay with backtracking here, but I think we should.
Yeah, I'd ask how long they've been waiting.
I don't know. They'd have to ask them.
Yes, I mean, I would ask that, give them the courtesy of that question.
So, Maurice and Patty, I know you've just been allowed into the meeting. We've already discussed the charter amendments and the municipal budget, but we'd like to give you the opportunity to speak if you had comments on either of those.
Oh,
Go ahead.
well, I was just going to mention, if public to be heard, I just wanted to mention basically Alan Martin. That there are still trees and brush and everything. I mean, we already accepted the sidewalks don't get plowed, but people can't even, pedestrians are not even able to walk along Alan Martin. And I just wanted to bring it to your attention that, it's, I understand, taxes are going up and everything. And, a lot of us put more money into our homes and a lot of money into our homes. And, we'd like at least the streets that are around us to be somewhat maintained. I'm not asking about plowing, but if the dead trees could please be removed. My husband can't even run along the sidewalk there, but other people can't even walk their dogs. So maybe you don't know, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I actually have no comment. I joined for an issue that you're going to be discussing later, I assume.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. So, any introductory remarks to the capital plan? Greg?
Yep, capital budget is also before you tonight. Again, we're proposing, well, we're holding 2 public hearings. It's a little bit out of the ordinary, but with it being a big year and a different year and having time in the agendas to do that, so you'll have the first of 2 public hearings tonight. Through the capital plan and budget, the town has a 2-cent capital tax, which raises money towards the capital each year. There's also money that gets transferred from the operating budget into the capital budget. But that 2 cents this year is going to expected to bring in about $322,000. Past years, we've brought in about $540,000. This is another result of losing the Essex Junction tax base. So the team working on this, Catherine Sonic, Community Development Director, Aaron Martin, Public Works Director, and Dan Roy, Finance Director, and myself went through, we tried to propose a capital budget, capital plan based on what was been there in the past, but also looking at now funding it with $320,000 as opposed to the amount that we've typically been used to. The requests from department heads came in right about $535,000, I think. So right about where we're typically spending or setting aside in our capital. As we went through, we allocated that $322,000 for fiscal year 24 to different line items. We made some decisions about projects to hold off on, projects where we could take existing money that's already in the capital budget, kind of reallocate it or use it for purposes without adding more money into those lines. We also held off on funding items such as paving, stormwater, some of those big ticket items, gravel roads, at the amount that they've historically been funded at. We're proposing to use undesignated capital to offset some of those expenses this year and some of that savings. It's something that we can get through this year. The select board last week, or at your last meeting, decided to put $200,000 of surplus towards capital, which will help. That's what we're looking at this year. Beyond this year, it's going to get tough to keep pace with our capital needs without changes. Not entirely part of the public hearing tonight, but part of the capital discussion is looking at raising the capital tax. Putting that up before voters at town meeting. Staff has recommended 3.5%. Sorry, 3.5 cents up from 2 cents. Again, that's basically to make up the difference of revenue from what Essex Junction had been paying into that. It's a little bit more. Just to make up the difference from Essex Junction would be 3.39 cents. We're proposing 3.5 cents, looking at inflation, looking at some of the costs that are coming, whether it's for your vehicles, your roads, buildings, stuff like that. That's the overview. Happy to try to answer questions about it, and the rest of the team is here too.
All right. Thanks, Greg. The one thing I want to comment on is that the capital plan itself is approved by the select board, but the there will be a town-wide vote, likely asking for an increase in the capital tax rate. The public hearing here is intent is to collect information about the capital plan. Given that the 5-year portion of that assumes the potential of a increased tax rate, my thought is comments on an increased tax rate, capital tax rate could also be appropriate. Okay, so any members of the public have any comments on the capital plan? Don't see any hands up in the room. No hands up online. Dennis, come on up.
Me again. Is it 1.5 cents per year for 5 years?
In this case, it would be a one-time, that was being proposed or talked about as a one-time increase of up to 3.5 cents. So 1.5 cents over.
One time.
So it's a permanent increase. Okay. Right. It's not a increase every year. Right.
Very good.
Right. Ken Signorillo, come on up.
Ed Signorello. Question is, was the anticipated increase in the grand list due to reassessment taken into account when determining the 3.5%?
3.5 cents.
3.5 cents, thank you.
Sorry, I made the same mistake. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah. It was not. And that's a consideration that probably I've suggested we look at, but it's hard. It's extremely difficult to predict what reassessment is going to look like, right? So there could be a scenario where, right, a smaller increase is approved in anticipation of correcting it later once we have a reassessment done.
Well, if it's not too late, I would suggest reducing the increase bit and wait for the reassessment and then adjust then.
Right, thanks, Ken. Anybody else? I don't see any hands in the room. I don't see any hands online. Any
I have a
board member comments?
question that I just noticed, and maybe somebody asked this and I missed it somewhere along the way. But under vehicles and equipment, there was no funding for the police department equipment, and I thought they had a replacement plan.
So no
Right.
money for what? I'm sorry, I missed.
There's no funding under capital tax FY24 for the police department vehicles and equipment, and I thought they had a replacement plan.
Right. So the reason for that is that we put all of the police capital into the police budget itself with operational transfers, so that the city of Essex Junction pays its portion of it through their payment for their police services. So all police capital runs through the general fund budget.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy?
So in keeping with that, does that mean that next year we won't see police station under buildings, the police department under vehicles and equipment on the capital plan because it's rolled into the police budget?
I think that's a good question and something we can consider. Part of what we want to do over the next year is really build out the 5-year plan, the 5-year piece of that, and get some better projections about vehicle replacements, stormwater repairs, stuff like that. First blush reaction is that we would probably keep it in there. It's still the capital plan. We'd also be showing we show some lines where or columns where we have revenue coming in from operating transfers or other ways, so it's not showing just the capital tax. That's my quick reaction, but something for us to consider.
Kendall?
I would just note again that your capital budget is very, very important. I would note, since I've been on the board, that there's been almost 400,000 pulled out of that account for a couple of major occurrences that the town had. It didn't affect the budget at all because you had the money. I'm glad that we're putting 200,000 more into it, but I would like to see what we actually need for the capital budget as it's proposed versus having staff make do with whatever the board gives them, more or less. I think you could break it up into both 10-year items, which you know are going to be replaced, and then you have long-term items. And you've had the fire chief come in here, the public works guys and everything. Everything is really expensive, and you get your biggest bang for your buck from your capital because that doesn't affect the budget once it's set. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Anybody else?
Make the motion that we close the public hearing for the future year 24 capital plan and the capital budget.
Thank you, Ethan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Don. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed, say nay. It passes 5-0. The public hearing is closed. Let's move on to our first business item. Consider approval of resolution in appreciation of Jerry Firkey.
Jerry Firkey has been our health officer for many years. Before that, he was the zoning administrator. He worked in the community development department. All told, he's probably been providing service to the town for about 50 years, in many capacities, and he is finally retiring. He's reached that point where he's ready to. Figured it was would be just a small gesture for the select board to approve a resolution in appreciation of Jerry for all he's done for the town, and a proposed resolution is in your packet.
All right, thanks, Greg.
I make the motion that we approve the resolution in appreciation of Jerry Firkey.
Thank you, Don.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Ethan. Now, typically, we have asked the clerk to read it into the record. So,
I apologize in advance because I have a hoarse throat, but if I have to cough in the middle, it's not intentional. So this is the resolution in appreciation of Jerry Firkey. Whereas Jerry Firkey was hired and served as zoning administrator for the town of Essex from November 1971 until 1977, and again from November 1980 until April 2006. And whereas Jerry was appointed as health officer in 1972, taking on this important duty for several municipalities, including Essex. Whereas Jerry retired after 31 years of service as zoning administrator, but remained active in his contribution to the community as health officer for 50 years. And whereas Jerry performed focused and diligent work as health officer, even when the rules and guidelines that exist today were not in place to support the professional position in earlier years. And whereas Jerry investigated public health hazards and acted to prevent or remove potential public health risk for the good of the residents of Essex. And whereas Jerry completed his term and final appointment as health officer on December 31st, 2022. And whereas Jerry's dependability, dedication, and loyalty will be missed and difficult to replace. Now, therefore, be it resolved that on the occasion of Jerry's final year as health officer, that the Essex Selectboard, on behalf of the staff and citizens of the town of Essex, hereby extend our most sincere appreciation to Jerry Firkey for 50 years of continuous service in investigating, enforcing, and resolving public health issues to support and maintain a high quality of life for the Essex community. Adopted this 17th day of January 2023 by the Essex Selectboard.
all right, thank you, Ethan. Any other board member comments?
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. And it's not an easy job. Fully appreciate all that Jerry's done. Okay, right, we have a motion and a second, and we've read it into the record. All those in favor of approving the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next business item. Consider approval of mailing ballots to all active voters for 2023 annual town meeting. Is you, Greg?
I can do this. For the past few years, it started off, I believe, largely as a COVID response to COVID. the state allowed municipalities to authorize the mailing of ballots to all registered voters, active registered voters. The town has done that the past few years. The legislature has made it a permanent piece of legislation where legislative bodies can decide to do this. With town meeting coming up, the question is before you tonight if you want to do so again for this coming March. There is a cost associated with mailings. Susan McNamara Hill, the clerk, has put that into the memo. It's approximately $6,700 to do the mailing. If you want to put on return postage, that's about $4,700. There's also the cost of printing ballots, envelopes, collating, stuffing envelopes. Printing is going to be happening no matter what. Total cost is $19,400 if the return postage is included, and if not, it's about $14,700 are the estimates.
Okay, thanks, Greg. So there's two questions before us. One is whether to mail ballots to all active registered voters, and the other is whether to include return postage.
I'm curious if you have a percentage of folks that have voted with the mail-in ballots versus folks that voted without mail-in ballots. You do that?
Good question, and Andy had asked a similar one. Susan, so the town clerk has said that most of the ballots are returned by mail, but she doesn't have a percentage.
Is there a percentage of how many ballots are voted?
Yeah, I mean, the turnout must be a lot higher with the mail.
Yeah,
mail
it
ballot.
is.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to say without double checking.
Yeah, we don't know. Okay. Ethan.
So I see like all three sides of this, and I say the third side because I have an idea also, but I think that we should return to the way that it was before COVID, but I also think that we should allow, like we did before, to request a mail-in ballot and send them with postage. But I don't think we should mail everybody a ballot because there's many people, including myself, who take that stamp and throw it away in the recycling box at the election poll. So I fully support mail-in voting, but I have a little bit of a conflict thinking that it should be on the town's penny.
So there's another option that's not reflected here. Actually, I've just remembered that in the response that came from Susan was that we could get a metered permit so that only those that are actually returned in the mail get charged postage. So there's a it's $1,000.
She said $1,000
a year fee to have that, and then there's a setup cost associated with it too, which I'm not sure what it is, but that's a third option. Again, it's not reflected in this memo, but I had asked the question, whether there's because I had the exact same concern where if I was at the polls and there were plenty of people that would come in and just rip their envelopes in half and throw them in the recycle bin with the stamp on it and everything.
Wasn't a true stamp. It was a printed.
It was a printed postage,
paper.
right? So you
can't use it for anything else.
You can't use it for anything else. But it's a sunk cost. Once we send out those letters with that printed stamp on it, it's spent. But again, I'm going on too long. There's a third option of getting a metered postage that only the ones that are returned in the mail paid for.
So, in the past, I know you've always been able to request a mail-in ballot. In the past, before COVID, when you requested a mail-in ballot, did it come with postage, return postage?
I don't recall. I'd have to get back to you on that.
I don't think it did.
No,
it didn't. That's the kicker that I'm throwing out there was we'd have to let people know. We're letting people know about everything going on, but we could let people know that if you want a mail-in ballot, we will send you one with postage if you don't have the ability to make it to the poll. But $1,000 fee. I don't know what stamps are right now. Are they over 70 cents? I think
There's
it was
60 cents until the 22nd, and then there's 63.
63. The 63 cents, so you're almost 2,000, right? No. 1,800 ballots before you actually save your $1,000.
It'd be more than that, Ethan, because it's not, you're not sending a regular letter. You're sending a heavy duty ballot in the
Right.
envelope with a return envelope.
Right. So, yeah, so you'd be, yeah. That's my thought. I
Alright.
support all of it. I just hate to see $20,000 cost.
Tracy, did I see your hand flicker there?
Yeah, I had asked the question previously around whether we were charged for every envelope that went out or only the ones that were returned, and I was under the impression that that's how it currently worked. So I'm glad to be corrected on that, because I had a different understanding. I also had a question around the cost of printing ballots. Envelopes, collating, stuffing is approximately $8,000. How many ballots do we need to have at the polls to begin with? I mean, is that deducted from the number of ballots in that $800 or $8,000, excuse me?
I do not know. Don, do you know how many?
No, that's all. It's all. So they send it to the printers, and we need 8,000. Of the 8,000, we want 6,000 mailed, and we like 2,000 delivered to the town clerk's office, so we have them for the polling place or whatever. I don't know what the numbers are, but that's
Okay.
they tell the mailing place how many they want mailed and how many they want delivered to the office for the polling place.
It does raise a good point, though, because although you bring your mail-in ballot to the poll, you don't have to as long as you sign the affidavit. So you could have them mail you a ballot, leave it at home, sign an affidavit, and get another ballot.
That's correct. That's totally
So
correct.
there lies another, situation that could arise. Just throwing that out there.
Right, so the pieces, the three pieces, well, I guess the 8,000 includes the stuffing of the envelope too. So it's hard to just parse out the cost of the ballots themselves from all the information we have. So Kendall, I think that's
I'd like to understand a little bit more about the third option, $1,000 meter. They'd only have to pay postage when that's brought back. So
yeah,
that-
my understanding, right, is you can use if you have the I don't know if there's a number on there, or I don't know I'm not sure how it works, but only those that are actually sent back through the mail would be charged back to the town. But it's a $1,000 annual fee
to keep that.
to have that service
On top of the post.
on top of on top of the cost of all the ballots and all that. But then you wouldn't have to pay that $4,700. You may have to, depending on how many are returned, right?
Yeah. Is that a one-time cost for that, the $1,000? That's
No, it's an
per
annual
year?
fee. It's an annual fee every year. It'd be every year.
And there was a one-time business mail permit fee. I don't have a cost on that. There was a one-time fee in addition to the $1,000.
Are there any other mailings that the town does that would be a benefit? Have that ability? Question.
Yeah, I don't think we send out anything else that has prepaid postage on it.
I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe a survey would be the only thing that comes to mind, but we don't do those regularly. And if you go into that expense, you're probably going to be spending the money to do a scientific survey anyways. It's going to be costly, probably, but we haven't done one of those in some time.
And anything that you add more to mail out is just going to cost more postage. It's not going to be free postage for any more mailings. It's just going to be free postage on any that aren't returned.
So it's only it's the ones that aren't returned that you won't pay for.
Right.
The scenario with the metered postage. Right? So I guess maybe we should ask for public comment. Seems we've all right. So let me go back to the meeting here. Anybody have any comment about whether we should be mailing out ballots and whether they should have return postage on them. Dennis, come on up.
So in addition to saving thousands of dollars by not doing mail-in ballots, this is a statement of mine that I don't understand how people don't see that the biggest threat to election integrity and democracy itself is mail-in ballots. So getting back to your metered mail-ins, you purchase or you contract with the post office to get that stamp to mail out stuff. Is that a yearly fee that allows you to do that?
Yes, it is.
And it would only be for one time. Like if you had multiple elections in 1 year, primary, a town meeting day, could you use it throughout the year?
So in 2023, it's correct. We're only going to have one. There's only one election this year, is town meeting. Next year there'll be town meeting and, well, I consider primaries too, potentially, right? So, in odd number of years, it's only one election. In even number of years, there's multiple elections.
But it would cover all of them.
It would cover all. The $1,000 would cover all.
How about other mailings that you do, like even the would it cover the parks and recreation pamphlets that comes out?
This only applies to the return mail.
Okay.
And so typically I don't think we have very many mailed in. We don't provide envelopes for people to mail, to mail and registration.
Just return stuff, you said.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Dennis. Anyone else? Just come on up and identify yourself.
I'm Lynn Smith. I'm here only because the Essex Westford School Board District was canceled tonight. But as far as mail-in ballots go, I'm totally against the blanket mailing of ballots to households. I do believe it contributes to election fraud. I know of situations in our county where there was fraud. So I believe we have to do everything we can to mitigate that. I agree with Ethan that if you request a ballot because you cannot make it to the polls and the return possibly should have return mail on it, I think that most of us would spend 60 cents going to the polls. So I think it's part of, so even if you decide not to put the return mail on it, I feel like that's not a hardship for probably everyone. 60 cents would not be a hardship if you're going to really vote. So but I would absolutely be against the blanket mailing of ballots in Essex town for many reasons. One of them is the cost.
All right, thank you, Lynn. Okay, I see Patty Davis.
I just want to say that I think it's a good compromise. The third option you gave, Andy, on so that people are not ripping up the ballots as they walk in the door to vote with a paid stamp. But the reason I want to comment is, I don't know about everybody else's neighborhood, but where we live, we don't even get our mail 4 days a week. So I know that it has to do with the post. It has to do with the mail, not so much the town post office, but the working conditions overall, trying to attract people to even deliver the mail is such a horrible issue. Williston has it worse. They went few more months than we do, but we can't just stand out in front of the post office with a sign to say, please come and work. They need to change the working conditions so that they're not on call to get people to want to work at the post office. It's a nightmare. I think that's the bigger issue before you even decide on what you want to do with whether to put postage on or not, because they're not going to get there in time when you vote. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. Or Patty, I'm sorry. I saw Lorraine's hand up also a moment ago. Lorraine, did you have a comment?
I did, but I'm not sure it's helpful because I was just curious in terms of some of the public and their concerns over ballot fraud, and just to be able to address that, because my understanding is that we have a pretty good, robust civil authority in terms of making sure that there's a certain error and that we haven't experienced that. So I'm not sure where that concern is coming from. And also, I guess if you decide to have private citizens pay for a ballot, that could run into other issues in terms of cost for a vote and other legality issues that I haven't really thought about. I think certainly we should think about if a ballot's requested as opposed to blanket mailing. I know for myself, certainly through hardship, it has been a godsend while we're taking care of my father-in-law. And I still use mail-in ballots because it's just so much easier for my crazy busy life, and also because of my concerns about COVID. So anyway, just a couple cents. I'm just not sure where the voting integrity question is coming from. And I think someone here has performed as on the Civil Board Authority could maybe enlighten people about the process. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Lorraine. Any other comments from the public?
We do have a comment in the chat, which we typically don't check, but might be worth mentioning and asking if Maurice Dunbar wants to share her comment.
Maurice, did you want to comment?
Yes, thank you. I was trying to unmute, and there's no way I can raise my hand on this. I can only put something in the chat. So thank you for asking. I think it's really important to save money. Everything is so expensive these days. So I agree with, I believe his name is Ethan, the man in the blue shirt. We really should keep it down to just mailing out ballots to people that request them. And then there's a greater degree of legality going on also. So please consider just mailing to the people that request it. Otherwise, people need to show up at the polls. And as far as the postage, that's 6 or half a dozen. I do believe that most people can spare 60 cents, but I understand that nobody can. So maybe somebody could plead their case at the town clerk's office if they can't afford the postage. So that's it. I'm into trying to save money because it's too easy to spend the public's money at large. And let's just keep it as inexpensive as possible, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hey, let's see. I don't see any other hands up. Any other comments from the room? Ken, do you want to comment?
What was budgeted for this election?
I don't remember offhand. I'd have to look.
Do we think it was the full mail-in with return? Any guess? Or was it standard vote at the polls, $8,000? I'm curious. So the question really is, how will it be paid for if you go with a full vote? If it wasn't budgeted. The question.
All right.
I believe that all the voting was put into one budget. It wasn't broken down primary versus.
True, that's true, because there's right there we're in the same fiscal year as the fall elections. Yeah.
The primary
Yeah,
presidential.
like
I don't
put
think
it
it was
in.
broken down that way. It was just one lump sum was put in.
I think so. I'd have to.
So I have a question about that. I thought that the state paid for the primary election. They don't pay for the postage on the primary election?
I believe it was going to be reimbursable, but I don't believe it's been.
Because that was that was part of the reason why they couldn't add any of the solid waste district votes that they had, because the states paid for the ballots and they did the mailing, and that's why they couldn't accept it and they had to be picked up. To my understanding, I could be wrong, but I've always understood that the state paid for primary elections.
Or for the November
And
election.
they print the ballots and for midterms and primaries.
They do that. Oops. I believe they do it for the ballots. if there's a local issue on like the November election, the August primaries, and the town pays for that piece of it, I do believe the town is paying for the poll workers. Pretty sure.
Okay, but no postage.
They
The question here is
paid
postage.
for, no, we had to pay for printing and I believe it was return postage. I may not be wrong there, but I know we
Yeah,
had to
I
pay a
don't-
part of the printing.
I'd like to clarify all that, because I mean, the question that was raised was, will this benefit primaries and midterms?
Yeah, that's right. It's a good question. That's a good point. Right.
So-
Well, right.
Well, we don't have any coming up, so I don't think that we really need to just
Right, but the
address-
question is, if we go to this $1,000 a year thing, is it only for the town meeting? Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good clarification. Dan, did you have a clarification there?
Yeah, good evening. So just to address the prior question about whether it's budgeted, I'm looking in the 2023 town clerk's budget. The election expenses line item is at a total of $33,800, with subcategories, if you will, of election workers being $3,900, mailing ballots for March election being $14,000, and postage to mail ballots being budgeted at $15,900 within our current.
Right. But to answer your question, it's all budget. Yeah, it is all budgeted. So, yeah. I can't hear you, Ken. You want to make more comments? Come on out.
I have a question for Dan after Ken.
Thank you for that, Dan. That was great. All right, so it's already budgeted, if I understand it correctly, 14,000 some odd dollars. The decision was made. We voted on that budget. It's in. It sounds to me like your decision's already been made. This seems moot to me.
Good point. Interesting point. Ethan.
I'm sorry if I didn't hear it right, but you said that was subtitled as March election?
Yes, so I'm reading it directly how it's listed in
Yeah.
the 2023 budget. So the three lines, one was election workers
Yeah.
for a total of 3,900. And then the description is mailing ballots for March election. That's exactly how it reads here.
And there's no other November
No, it specifically says for the March election, 14,000, assuming just the one election in an odd number year. And then postage to mail ballots, 15,900.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, that totals a lot more than what you're
It's a
saying
lot
is
more
going to
than
cost.
actually it's going to cost. Yeah.
Doesn't
Tracy, did
sound
you
right.
have
Oh, I was just gonna clarify, that we're talking about the FY 24 budget, which ends June 30, 2024. So that fall's elections would not be included in the FY 24 budget. That would actually be the FY 25 budget for the primary conversation.
Oh, right. Yeah. But what we're talking about now, though, is mailing them next month, which is in FY23. So it's so that's why. Yeah. So, but yeah, for future ones, you're right. The budgeting for it would not be in until FY25. So, any other public comment? Then did you want to comment some more? Or ask for a go ahead.
To Ken's point, if it's already budgeted, is it a must that we do it that way? Or can we come in under budget and not mail the ballots? That was
Yeah,
like I'm getting an answer
We
of,
don't have to.
we could come in under budget.
We could. Yes, we could. Okay, so bring it back to the board. There's been a lot of comment about not mailing ballots. I guess talk about that first. Do we want to mail ballots? Kendall?
I would just speak up, say I have a lot of respect for our town staff, and they recommend that we mail ballots to all the voters. Could you speak to that, Greg, as to why it is a recommendation to do that?
Excuse me. Sorry. I believe we've gotten much higher turnout since we've been mailing ballots. I don't have the numbers in front of me to say exactly what it's been, but we have gotten more people participating in elections since we've started mailing them.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Comment? Don, you got something?
I'm really having to bite my tongue here. I know I'm going to get myself in trouble. But as someone that's worked on elections for over 50 years, I truly believe that people should be able to just call in and request it, and we should not do a mass mailing. We can do return postage on the ones that request it to help them return it. But I truly believe if you want to participate in the process, you go to the polls. But if you're unable to go to the polls, then you feel free to call the clerk, and we'll be more than happy to send the ballot. And I, truthfully, just because money is in that budget, we need to save wherever we can save, and it doesn't mean we have to spend that.
It sounds like there's like $30,000 in that budget, roughly, maybe more. I'm all. I mean, I made the recommendation, but I'm all for including postage on requested ballots. If there's a hardship, then we don't have to worry about the question of there being a hardship. If there's a hardship, you request a ballot. There's going to be postage on the return envelope. And we're just save significantly.
So, Tracy, any thoughts? Or you want me to?
I've long been torn on randomly sending a ballot, not randomly, but sending a ballot to every single voter. Anyone can call the clerk's office. They can go to the Secretary of State's office. They can request a ballot. They can go to the polls. There's same-day voter registration. There are avenues which exist in order to make it very much easier to vote. Requesting a ballot is extremely simple. Actually, I think there was a question in one of the meetings the other day, so I went on the website just to see what the wording was, and I requested ballots right there in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm leaning toward not mailing ballots at this point.
So to talk about some history, and then not you have more.
Sorry. However, but if someone does request a ballot, that return postage should absolutely be covered.
Okay. It wasn't too long ago where we were doing floor votes. We were probably the largest community in the state still voting the budget from the floor. It was a significant concern expressed by many people, including the Essex governance group folks wanting it to go to the ballot. And so we've done that. And that, we've gone from a couple hundred people deciding whether the budget is approved to several hundred if you don't mail out the ballots. Now, if we mail out the ballots, of course, we don't yet have experience with, and we don't know what the numbers are for the town itself. I mean, the town as it exists today without the village. My memory says that I've been elected to the select board by 800 people or so that come to the polls, but that included the village at the time. So I don't know. Is that number going to be half? I don't know. So you assume that you get about that many people voting on the budget, if that's that many people that come to the polls in March. It's often a cold day.
But I was just gonna, in response to that, yes, we made the motion that we would do it by Australian ballot. But then COVID hit, so we haven't really done it without the automatic mailing. We haven't had a year where people had to call in and request, because we just, for the 2 years we've been doing it, we automatically mailed it to everybody. So we don't know what your response is going to be.
So there wasn't, trying to think.
'Cause I'm pretty sure that
In 20,
I don't know, I've got so many
2020, March of 2020, all of the COVID restrictions weren't in place yet. Did we vote on did we vote the? I don't
We
remember.
That was the
voted-
last floor vote. Yeah.
Is that?
But that was the last floor vote.
2020 was the
last
last
floor
floor
vote.
vote. So we've never actually done it where people
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay.
it's
so
just
we
a
have-
regular come to the polls and vote Australian ballot.
Because
So,
the first
Greg,
yeah. The first Australian ballot vote was by mass
Yep.
mail because it had to be. Because it was the
Right.
question, do we want to vote by Australian ballot? That was the question on the ballot.
So no, that would have had to have been in 2019 that we, and it was a November vote, not a March vote.
Right, but it wasn't a floor vote.
But it was no. It was,
yeah, but we still had voted the budget.
Right,
that
right,
was
right.
just one we added with
question.
the election of officers.
That was
and then it
November
out.
of 2019.
I don't know. We need to save money, Andy, and I
Yeah.
just-
Okay.
Has it really been since 2019 that we had a town meeting in person?
No, 2020 was
2020
was in person.
Okay.
It was in March, and it was right
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
we went,
All-
boom,
all-
April,
I
was-
everything shut down.
I was there. It
Elections
just
occurred,
doesn't
yeah.
seem like it's been that long.
Yeah, you were there. You were my hero then.
Yeah.
You absolutely were.
May I barge in again?
No, I think we've completed the public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Never a popular position, but this year there's a significant budget increase. There are some important questions for the town of Essex, all the folks that live in the town of Essex.
Right.
I do agree with Greg is that there's no question you get more participation if you supply those ballots to the mail. You are going to lose some postage, but might want to consider doing it this year because it is such a transition, such a change year, to give as many people as possible a chance to weigh in on the budget and the issues that the town is facing. So I would speak in favor of the whole boat.
So we will have the budget question, 5 charter questions, likely 5 charter questions, and also potentially a question on increasing the capital tax.
So just saying, if you do that, nobody can say that, well, I didn't have an opportunity or I didn't get the memo that I have to request a ballot this year because I've got a ballot for the last couple of years. So I will speak in favor of the whole boat.
On a side note, if you save $20,000, you could use that for the things that you've been asking for increases on, like public works and capital and all those other things. You could use that money towards those.
True.
Okay, so it sounds like, all right, there's 2 questions here. Do we need 2 motions for these? One is whether to mail the ballots, the other is whether to include return postage. Do we need to vote on return postage?
Sounds like it might be a wise idea today. Tonight.
So the motion should be worded in the affirmative, and if you don't want to do it, then you vote no.
I make the motion that we return to request ballot voting for March town meeting.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second? Thank you, Ethan. So the motion is to return to request absentee ballots. Any further discussion of the board? You see.
Kendall just sparked something in my mind. If we don't send ballots, will there be some sort of educational component to let folks know that they will not be receiving a ballot? Because for the last 2+ years, however many elections, it's just automatically shown up in their mailbox. So
Well, I would think with the newsletter and Front Porch Forum and the Essex Reporter and meetings with the manager, and we could get the word out.
We would use all those channels just for anything else. We try to get the word out on. We would do the same thing for this.
this is happening, across the country and let alone across the entire state of Vermont too. It's not just Essex that's having this question, and there's going to be many other municipalities that don't mail ballots. So it's not like this is something that's just specific to, this is not a requirement anymore. Is basically the reason why the question is being posed to. So before it was a mandatory requirement, So I expect,
Right.
I'm just an assumption, but I expect, Rights and Democracy and a few others are going to go out there and say, hey, this is happening this year. I would assume.
I don't know what others are going to do. I want to raise a concern with the way the motion was worded, because if it fails, then what happens? Because we need to vote in the affirmative to do it if we want to do it, to mail the ballots.
Okay,
Right.
I will reword it then.
So-
Just give me a minute here. I make the motion that voting for town meeting occurs in person unless an absentee ballot is requested.
So again, Don, I
Got it.
think the motion should be more along the lines of
Mailing ballots.
voting in favor of mailing the ballots, and then you vote no if you don't want it. That way, if it does pass, then we have a motion that's passed that allows the town to send the ballots out.
Well, then I can't make that motion because I don't approve that we're mailing them.
You vote no if you.
No, but I'm not going to make a motion.
Right. Okay. So you're going to withdraw your.
I'm withdrawing my motion then.
And you-
Yes.
Okay, because I'm just trying to make sure that we have, I think we need a motion that says we're going to do it if we do it. It's okay if it fails, then we just do what's in statute. And so, you go see if I can find the words, unless somebody else wants to make the motion in the affirmative. I'll make the motion then. Make the motion that the select board vote to mail ballots to all active voters for the budget and election of officers and to election of officers. I'll stop there. Okay, Kendall has seconded. So this is, again, I've just changed the wording around. If you're not in favor of mailing the ballots, vote no, vote nay. If you are in favor of mailing them, vote aye, just to be clear. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? But if you don't want ballots, just making it clear, if you don't want ballots mailed, please vote nay. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
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 Okay, motion fails. 2-3, and so statute prevails. We will not mail out the ballots, but then there's a second question of,
At this time, can I make the motion that we put return postage on those that are verbally requested?
Second.
thank you, Don, thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? And the question is whether to include return postage on ballots, absentee ballots that are requested from the town clerk.
And just clarify, I know I didn't mean to say it, but you said verbally requested. We need to just say,
They have, well, they're going to call in or.
well, they can do it online.
Okay.
Or just to,
Yeah. Okay. I make the motion that we include return postage on absentee ballots. How's that?
Second.
All right, thank you, Don, thank you, Tracy.
I can't win.
Thanks for the clarification.
I'm sorry.
It's good. It's good. Gotta get good. Details are important. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion passes 5-0. Okay, so we will not mail ballots to the registered voters, but we will include postage on those for those who do request them. All right. Now let's move on to
Mr. Chairman, I make a
next-
motion to get this started that we approve the letter to the Vermont Agency of Transportation to install crosswalk and flashing beacons on Route 128.
Second.
All right, motion's been made already. Rock and roll.
Let's get this going.
Okay, any discussion?
You had made a point about referencing there's a sign near that area that indicates there's pedestrian traffic ahead, and
Right.
we can add a line to that sense in the letter.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was my point at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And I saw this on the packet. And I reached out to the person who lives in the area who frequently asked me about it, and they weren't able to make it tonight. But that was the biggest concern for the resident, was that it's a failed attempt at a crosswalk. There's a crosswalk ahead, and then there's no crosswalk signs. There's no crosswalk on the road. There's no. It's just crosswalk ahead. Watch out for the dog and the bike is what it shows on the sign.
Well, it's a person in a bike.
Or a person in.
And so I did Google that sign, and there is an official definition of what that sign means. It does mean that there are pedestrians and bicycles crossing ahead, but it doesn't say where. Yeah, there's no indication of where it is. So yeah, if we could update the motion to include adding in a reference to the existing road sign to the memo.
So moved.
Okay, who seconded that?
Second.
Right.
Second again.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Accept. Vice. All right, any other comment from staff? We didn't take any public comment on that. I suspect this is okay with everyone.
I've made the school district aware. They take a look, but they're generally supportive of safe crossing, so they may be able to also provide a letter of support.
Right, great.
Thank you guys for the work on this, Greg. It was Aaron, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so to clarify, this is about on 128 near the intersection with, is it Irene
Avenue.
Avenue, whether or not we can put in some sort of safe crossing stuff there. This road sign indicates that there should be something there, but there isn't. So, all right.
Did we close the discussion yet? We haven't voted yet.
We have not voted yet, so you can say something.
So I just wanted to make a mention, and it's not a big deal, but I'm sure they'll know the speed limit of their road, but it is in the 50-mile-an-hour zone.
When you're coming one way, it's 50. When you're coming the other way, it's
40. Yeah, I know.
That's in the transition piece.
So it's 50 miles an hour going south and 40 miles an hour going north. So you have a 50-50 chance of getting hit at 40 or 50.
All right, depending on which way traffic's going.
You can't make this stuff up. I'm serious.
If they're doing the speed limit.
If they're doing the speed limit.
All right, so we have a motion to have approve a letter to the Vermont Agency of Transportation as modified. The discussion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion and potential action on evaluation standards for town manager.
So as part of my contract, you're supposed to evaluate me each year, which I welcome. One of the parts of the contract talks about how the board and the manager are supposed to come up with agree to some standards for what that evaluation is supposed to look like. It's also one of the goals that you had set for me last year, is to come up with what those evaluation standards look like. Provided you in the packet with some examples from South Burlington and Winooski, and at your desk are examples of what the town of Essex has used in the past to evaluate my predecessor. All of them take feedback from elected officials and department heads. They kind of touch on different areas about leadership, budget management, interpersonal relationships, customer service, communications, appropriate skill sets, so on and so forth. So this is to start the conversation. I suppose if you like any of them well enough, I'm comfortable with any of them. We can move ahead and you can approve a set of standards tonight. Otherwise, happy to take some feedback and craft something up and bring it back to you for consideration at a future date.
Okay, so this is one of our required tasks as a board, is to evaluate the manager. The way this has been done in the past, we don't have to continue doing it the way it's been done in the past. We can do whatever what we'd like, but we need to do a fair evaluation of the manager. We have approved goals that Greg is working toward. I'd like to suggest that we ask him, well, I guess first thing is we need to do this, I guess, by July 1st, because that's when the next fiscal year starts, and nominally, if he's going to get a raise, when it would take effect. Couple of things to consider is there's an election coming up here, and some of us may not be at the table. It may be more difficult for a new select board to evaluate past performance. My experience in prior years is that when the evaluation goes beyond the election and there are seat changes, it does become very difficult it just generally falls on people that are remaining. To complete it, and a couple of years ago we didn't even ever complete the evaluation. We totally failed to get it done. Don't want to see that happen. I'd like to have do this fairly quickly if we can. I don't know what others are feeling. I'd like to ask Greg to write up his self-evaluation of how he thinks he's progressed against the goals that we asked him to achieve, and then at one or both of our February meetings have a discussion about evaluating how to respond to that. Again, I'd like to get it done sooner rather than later, unless others have different opinions with regard to how to do it. In the past, there's been a fairly long, drawn out. I guess I'm putting some judgment in there by saying drawn out, a process where the board chair would interview all of the department heads. It's my understanding that the department heads are not crazy about that. The recommendation in the documentation that was given to us, the recommendation from the Managers Association? ICMA. Suggests that you have an independent third party collect input like that if you're going to collect it. There would be an expense associated with that. If we want to do that, we could do that. Probably have some budget.
I believe the HR director has done that in the past. I do trust him to be impartial.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
So in the past, these two that Greg gave us tonight, I know those are the ones we've used. Have there been any concerns with this evaluation form, this approach? Other than you don't want to talk to them, I get that, but they have a chance to input. The department head has a chance to evaluate, so you wouldn't talk to them personally. But I didn't know if there's any other concerns.
So in the past, only the chair saw those the direct responses. Did we share that all out? I don't think we did.
With the manager or
the department head evaluations of the manager. I don't recall them going beyond the chair.
I thought we saw them in aggregate.
I thought,
I
think she's right.
I wasn't involved in them.
Yeah, I don't think there was no direct.
No direct, but it's just sort of a general
maybe
summary.
Maybe Travis had done that.
I think he compiled everything and then get them to the chairs, but I don't know if it went beyond the chairs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I seem to remember seeing the average scores. No names, just average score per question.
I'm happy with these forms. I would take out the Village of Essex Junction stuff. But I would also ask that the department heads speak to their employees before completing the evaluation. Because what a department head may think and the actual employees may think would be different. Does that make sense? No?
No, it makes sense to me. And the only thing I would ask, and I welcome that 360 evaluation. I welcome hopefully constructive criticism. I guess my one request of taking input from department heads or other staff is that I have a chance to respond or provide context if need be. And in some cases I'll say, yep, absolutely. In some cases I'll say, well, you might want to hear such and such. I'm speculating.
You won't really get any good comments though unless it is completely confidential.
Yeah, that's the thing is right. If there's something that's said that makes it obvious who somebody is, that's a challenging situation to put both of both the manager and the individual in. Ethan?
I'm new to all this, and it raises a good point that you brought up about seats and stuff like that, because coming into this position, we had to review the in Greg's contract about the bonus, and I had only been on the select board for 3 months, but just that was in my mind before, but even more so now to the last comment that was just made. That discussion was made in executive session. There's a review of an employee, so I don't see why we couldn't use these forms and include what Don was talking about and make that evaluation. We can have a public discussion about certain things for goals and stuff like that.
Right.
But the actual evaluation
Right,
and
the
any
evaluation
comments
would
to those
absolutely be
nature
done.
can be done in an executive session,
yeah.
and then we can make a decision, and then we can bring it back and give our decision and have the conversation with the public then if we need to, let's just say, defend ourselves for anything or making that decision or whatever, but just to support our decision. So that's kind of my thought on it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but
Yeah, right.
I like the form.
So the two that we have is the department head evaluation, and what's the other one? It's the board member. Okay, so we would fill out one of them. The one thing that I always struggled with on this is I don't see everything that Greg does, or that the manager does, so it's hard to answer some of these questions. But can be done, I guess.
Then you'd write NA.
Yeah. They added a bubble for that.
Yeah, there is one there, isn't there?
I don't like the 1 to 5 because it's like, what's good? Is it 4? Is it 5? Like, is 5 perfect? Is 4 still good? Should be, in my opinion, I like the 1, 2, 3, 4 scale because it's either doing a bad job, doing a pretty bad job, or you're doing kind of good, or you're doing really good.
Okay, that's just getting into the
with
weeds
5,
there.
I included the
With the 5
evaluation.
bubbles, it's too much. It's like, well, which is it? Is 5 good or is 4 good?
I included the evaluation form that the rest of the staff uses. Not to necessarily say that that's what you should use, but it does provide a scoring metric, and it has descriptions. I think it ranges from either 0 to 3 or 1 to 3, but it has, here's what is excellent, here's what is good, here's what is satisfactory.
Right.
And they're pretty high standards to
Right.
achieve those.
Okay.
So something like that I could work on something like that too to
Throw the index in here.
What's that?
An index on
Oh,
the
yeah.
front page.
And there was I think the South Burlington one has describes what a 1 to 5 is: excellent, above average, average, below average, poor. If you do the 1 to 5 scale.
So maybe my thought of getting this done by the end of February is a little aggressive. Actually, the end of March should be the when the new board doesn't sit until beginning of April. But so
I'm still cutting it close.
There's a typo on there too. It says in May respects instead of many respects.
all right. So does everybody agree that we should ask Greg to put together do we want to do on a I guess trying to figure out the right order to ask these questions. Do we want to try to get this done before a new select board is seated?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it seems we have consensus on that. So then sounds like, is there any, Greg, have you taken any comments here about modifying these forms at all to
The main thing I've heard is to make it clear what each score, what each ranking is.
Yep.
Whether it's excellent, above average, average, or satisfactory, good, excellent, but just provide clear standards to help you with the scoring.
Take out anything pertaining to the city.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
take
it,
out the irrelevant pieces. Okay, and so then we can ask you to or get that information added to the forms and take out the references to the Essex Junction. Yeah, we don't need the question about whether we're on the select board or the board of the trustees anymore, right? and then ask you to write up something about your progress against your goals. I'm, you know, our next meeting is in 13 days. It's probably way too quick to.
Yeah, and I'm going to be gone for a few days.
You're
Want to
gonna be
make sure
gone
we
too.
get town
Yeah.
meeting prepped. So
We need to get ready for town meeting. So maybe, yeah, okay, my, get this done before the,
February is a good month.
yeah, I'll target.
End of
I'll
February.
target at least the,
Mid-February.
yeah. I'll target the first meeting in February to get you
Yeah.
something, and if everyone's happy, great. If not, we have the second meeting in February. I know I only gave you the Essex evaluation form tonight, so you haven't had much chance to review. Quick reactions? Do you like South Burlington? And Winooski and South Burlington are kind of the same. Because I had a manager that shifted from one to the other. Do you like that form? Do you like the Essex Junction form? Do you want me to try to combine the two or take different parts of the two?
For sense of time on you and us, I would say, my opinion, I haven't done this before, so I don't know if you guys don't like this form for any reason, but I would say keep this form for this year and evaluate it maybe after election and town meeting and all of that. That's just me.
anybody else have any thoughts on that? Haven't had a chance to compare the two different forms,
Yeah, I
but
haven't
My first thought in looking at I like the thoroughness of the one from South Burlington, but on the other hand, it's for each question, you have 10 questions under the section, so there are 50 items that you're scoring. So I think that might be a little too in-depth. I mean, I like the simplicity of ours, but I think it could go more into tease more information out.
You trying to figure out, do you need more, any guidance with regard to doing that?
I can work with that. I'll propose something and
Okay.
see what you think about it.
And
If that works.
you okay with that?
That's fine.
Yeah, and if, you know, again, I haven't had a chance to do a because we just got these forms tonight. I will go ahead and go look at these ones compared to those, and if there's any, and I'd like, you know, if there's an opportunity to do so yourselves, you know, send any comments to Greg about if there's particular things you'd like to see. We can you know, don't copy everybody because we can't have a discussion offline like that, but you know, send your comments to Greg. And
I
are
would
we
just
okay?
recommend that maybe Travis had input onto what the form should be.
And as Travis to
absolutely.
review too. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And the other thing, is everyone okay with having Travis handle the department head / employee forms as a Greg has indicated he trusts him, and I'm sure Travis will do what he can to anonymize, that's a word, stuff.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. Right. Anything else you need from us, Greg?
No, thank you.
And I'll you know, if you wanna, I mean, we meet Thursdays anyway, we can talk about it if there's anything you want to bring up.
Mhm.
Bounce off anybody. Happy to continue that. All right.
Sounds good. And I guess I'll just put in a pitch of if you've got issues, good or bad, don't wait until the evaluation. Happy to hear them and try to adjust well ahead of time.
Yep. All right. Great. Thank you. Okay. Moving on.
Into the motions.
Mine did that too, so I went back to the old fashioned way.
Do we need a motion here?
No.
I don't think we do. We want to have an executive session discussion about
Nope.
this? I think we were
Okay.
mostly
No,
just talking
skip
about
that part.
process.
We've already done it.
We're just talking about process here, and once we get some of the inputs going or whatever, then we will definitely have executive session discussions.
We need to ask a technical question. Does civic clerk time out?
I think so. I
It's
got
both
kicked
Kendall
out.
and I have lost
Oh, really?
ours.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I can't get.
You've lost yours too?
I can't get
Google
any-
Drive is working well.
Well, I just
Over.
switched back to Google Drive, so yes, I
Actually,
have
if
it.
you
but-
go through the agenda and minutes on the website, you can still get to it, just not the board view.
Okay. Sorry, that's all right. Just I got Google. I'm good.
No, it's a good thing if it's gonna time out on you. That's an issue.
Huh?
Yeah, it's not working for me either.
Okay,
I
I'll
can't
make
get-
a
I can't pull it
note
up.
and talk to Tammy and
Don't get anything.
I even restarted to see if I could kick the gremlins
Yeah.
out.
It's just
Still there.
spinning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine came back.
All right, let's move on to business item 6F, discussion and potential action about memorandum of understanding with Essex Police Association. This is this will be
Do
a
you want these now before we move to the?
executive session discussion.
Do you want to approve the rest first before we go back and make these motions?
Yeah.
Do you want to skip?
We'll come back to executive sessions at the end. And then the next one is real estate purchase and lease actions.
Yep.
We'll have to come back to that one too. So consent agenda.
I make the motion. We accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? Yes.
How long has the town mechanic worked for the town?
he's been the mechanic for about a year, Aaron. And he has had different roles in public works prior to that for a few years. I think he's worked.
Are most of the big equipment John Deere right now? It's got two, right? The loader. Okay. I only ask because I put a lot of stock in the staff's recommendation, and if they want a loader, great. I just wanted to kind of feel a little more of it is more expensive than the other ones. I just want to add a couple of changes.
All right, great. Thanks, Kendall. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion to approve consent. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Moving on to the reading file. Any select board member comments?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody that has participated and that helped with the sponsoring of the planning meetings, because they have been well attended and awesomely handled. I want to thank you for doing that.
Anybody else? Ethan and I had the opportunity to participate in the town tours last Friday, and I met the town mechanic. It was a fantastic day. Really, if you have the opportunity and the ability to participate, I encourage you to do so. I think this is something that we may. It was interesting. We also had a new employee go along with us. So it was kind of an orientation for Alexia up in ComDev, and so it was great to have her along. I learned a lot about the town. I also learned stuff about Ethan that I didn't know before.
I heard he asked good questions, so that's what I heard.
Well, and he talks about himself too.
Nice.
So
Is that good or bad?
no, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
And we also found a place that's stinkier than my farm.
Yeah, we went down the pump station at the end of the circ.
Yeah.
That thing goes down about
Deep.
three stories.
Tammy was
down.
showing me pictures today. I go, I didn't know that building was that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you get down to the bottom one, the sewage is just flowing right through there. And
Oh.
we were warned.
Trough. There's a little trough.
We were warned if you go in there and then you go home later, make sure you're not going out, to a fancy dinner or anything, because you
shower.
will smell like the sewer. And
They tried to talk us not going in it, and me and he looked at each other, and I'm like, I'm going in it.
let's go do it. Let's go in. But
So
anyway, it was an
There's the option not to
There's-
participate
yes.
in that piece of it.
option not to go downstairs. He
You don't have
actively encouraged us not to go down there. Actually,
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a great day, fantastic planning. I did let Tammy know that I thought it was a fantastic thing. The one challenging part is there weren't any bio breaks planned, but I think things worked out. So, all right.
I just had a comment about where are we with Essex Rescue?
Oh, that's I want to make a comment today. So, they're holding a board of director meeting tomorrow to address the letter, and I've been extended an invite to attend. I think they're gonna reach out to the other municipalities to attend. But this is the first time that they're introducing the letter to their board for comments. So I'm gonna attend the meeting. It's at 6:00 tomorrow. I'm just there to listen.
Okay.
That's the only update I have.
I mean, I would just make the general comment that we're not asking any more from Essex Rescue than we ask for all the rest of the departments. We've grilled everybody equally, I'm pretty sure. So hope going forward that we can maintain a little more even keel.
Yeah. And the other thing too is there was never an indication from us that we were not going to fund them. So
I did note that some EMT services went out of business today, so it's the world that we're in.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else? Okay, let's go back to we don't need an executive session for talking about Greg, but
Yeah, there's a separate item there that.
there's a third item. The last item, the additional item, the thing added to the agenda.
I have one.
6E.
I'm looking for the other one, Don. Which you have the one on computer?
I have two on the computer.
Okay, I got the paper.
Okay, wait. You want to? All right. This is the one I have. So we don't need the one for executive session or for discussion on evaluation, right?
No, you do.
We do.
Yep.
All right. Wait a minute. Okay. I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee in accordance with 1 VSA section 313A3 to include the town manager.
Second.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Next motion.
I move that the select board make the specific finding that a premature general public knowledge of the town's position concerning ongoing contract negotiations and labor relations agreements with the employees would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Second.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
I move the select board enter into executive session to discuss contracts and labor relations agreements with employees pursuant to 1 VSA 313A 1A and 1 VSA 313A 1B to include the town manager and we need the police chief added to that? Just town manager. Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
I move that the select board enter executive session to discuss the negotiations for securing of real estate purchase or lease options in accordance with 1 VSA section 313A2 and to include the town manager.
Second.
Hey, thank you, Don. Thank you, Ethan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0.
I move that the select board make the specific finding that general public knowledge of pending or probable civil litigation to which the public body is or may be a party would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Thank you, Ethan. Second. Thank you, Kendall, for the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss pending or probable civil litigation to which the public body is or may be a party pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1E to include the town manager.
Thank you, Ethan. Second. Thank you, Tracy. Do we need to make any motions?
Yep.
Yes, there's a motion that you'll be asked to make after executive session.
Okay, so we will be coming back, but Scott, you don't need to stay. We will leave the meeting active. We'll probably go upstairs to have our discussion and then come back down to make our final motion and adjourn. So we have the final motion here. I always like to have that discussion before we have the last vote. Any further discussion on the into executive session? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0. We'll go into executive session. We'll come back down to make